Hey guys, welcome back to another Attachment Point News Roundtable. I got Jeff Harris with Appulate here, who was, kind enough to jump on, and we're nerding out about Southern California before we hit record. Thanks, Jeff, for joining me from across LA County.
Hey, Broker Brett. Thanks for having me. This is truly an exciting day for me to be able to be on your show, and thanks for all you do for the industry. You really have a great podcast.
And I appreciate it. Yeah, myself, Tony Canas is really kind of the workhorse in the face of our little group. We've been lucky to have a lot of other contributors. But yeah, Appulate, thanks for reaching out. Looks like you guys are doing a ton of work for a lot of great brokerages across the country. And kind of, looking forward to diving in and, see what you're doing for folks out there. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing. We're about to celebrate our 17th birthday in March. And I think, we kind of joke around, but I kind of think that we were maybe the first InsurTech. It sure feels like that because we've been at it now for almost 2 decades, but still having fun and just love to be a part of the growing InsurTech space.
Well, kind of maybe a cousin, maybe adjacent, but I had a broker boot on for the last one. And I blogged about those guys 5 years ago. And I was just joking, Jason, like that was early, the Ask Kodiaks, the Risk Geniuses, those were kind of the companies on the radar when I, sort of came on the scene. It was funny. I swear I got into insurance because I thought it was sleepy and I was avoiding like real estate or something. And then all of a sudden it became popular and big. Yeah. So
well, there's been a lot of changes in 17 years. And I mean, when we started in 2005, the industry was still largely being run by the baby boomers, right? It was my parents' generation. And those folks had incredible skills and talents, but they weren't very tech savvy. And as the agents and brokers have kind of been passed down to the Gen X generation, and the carriers are now being run by Gen Xers and others, I think it's just the acceptance level of tech has been so much greater, and I believe that's powered the transformation of the industry. And I think we're just kind of still at the tip of the iceberg.
I think we're early on that, as you say that, and it was awesome. I mean, I grew up around a moving company. The CEO was great. My dad was top salesman there, and there were some intangible skills like I feel so fortunate to have.
Definitely.
Yeah, I feel like the handoff is just barely starting. Even COVID kind of made it obvious that change needs to occur. But I mean, better than I, but I mean, I feel like our space is still like circa 2005, in some ways, like APIs being kind of novel, like there's a lot of change still to come,
Yeah, there really is, and I think it's going to just kind of speed up. I mean, that's just how technology it works in general, right? And some of it is coming from really smart and savvy insiders, people within the insurance industry that find problems to solve. But I don't know about you, Brett. I'm seeing increasingly that there's outsiders coming into the industry. These are entrepreneurs that maybe don't have any prior experience in insurance, and they're bringing completely different set of skills or kind of just a different vision to the space. And I think that's healthy too.
I think it's really cool. So, and again, this is my armchair psychologist, amateur.
Yeah.
I think folks like yourself saw the need 10, 15 years ago and started working on the inside. I think smart, savvy people 5, 10 years ago saw the need from the outside and started working on it. And I do think, we're recording this late January. There's been a little bit of humbling of the InsurTech stocks. But I think the outsiders have become humbled. And I think the people on the inside recognize they need the help. And I think there's going to be a lot of really cool synergies kind of spinning up, not to use a buzzy management word, but I think it's about to get really fun. And I think we're going to lose insurance and InsurTech. And I think it's becoming one thing,
Yeah, well said. I couldn't agree more. And it's just, when you go to the big InsurTech events and other things, I mean, the atmosphere is so positive and upbeat. And it is not the stuffy insurance industry of, our parents' generation.
It's so for Appulate, I haven't been around for 17 years. How are you guys getting into brokerages, carriers? How's your software? Because it sounds like you're sensitive to the pains of legacy situations. I don't want to pick on anybody. It's hard to move a 10,000 person.
Oh, yeah.
How are you, working with kind of all ends of the spectrum? Sorry for such a broad question.
No, it's a great question. It's one that I appreciate because I think that's where Appulate plays in a very unique place. I mean, I don't know of too many other organizations that cater to kind of all three of the constituents involved in the quoting and submission process, right? So Appulate has a single instance multi-tenant solution, but it's used by agents, by brokers and MGAs, and also by carriers. And I think that makes us a bit unique, that we've kind of created this platform that allows for all the stakeholders, even the insured could access Appulate, to be able to make that quoting and submission process more effective. And that's I think where, what the industry needs from us.
So, and we've been playing around that in the life insurance side with Fineo, kind of see if the pain points there as well. It's such an interesting thing. Like, if you work with major carriers and kind of their legacy stacks and kind of providing a middle layer to kind of make it accessible now to third parties, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's no easy feat. Yeah,
the carriers are the, they're the toughie, right? They're these such large organizations, and it's really hard to kind of move them. I always call them the aircraft carrier, right? It takes a lot to kind of turn that aircraft carrier around. So, our strategy has been to focus on really trying to maximize the benefits and value for the agents. At the end of the day, the agents are the ones that are bringing the carriers the premium. So, if we empower the agents and really help them, that seems to drive the motivation more from the carriers, and that's been our strategy for more than a decade now, and it's been working well.
As a sales guy, like I work construction for a year, but mainly been sales. If you bring people money, you tend to have their attention. And in sales, sales too. Like, if you're selling, you're doing pretty much everything right. If you're not selling, it's hard to do anything right.
It's so true. It's so true.
At the end of the day, people pay attention to the purse strings. Yeah, agents are interesting to work with too. What I've found is you'll want to go for like the middle tier. I hate to say it, but the lost little guy, it's hard to bring them along, make change. And then the people who are killing it today usually don't have the time to pay attention to something new or a novel idea. But how have you found, success reaching out to brokers? Any segments more open, or do you look for like age demographics, or kind of come one, come all? I don't know.
So, we work, and I pinch myself on this because it's just unbelievable. But, we have more than 35,000 agencies, 80,000 agency locations, and over 300,000 users today on the Appulate platform. So it's such a broad spectrum. I mean, no one seems to really know how many agencies there really are in the industry. There's all kinds of like different numbers you hear, but the industry analysts have kind of told us that they think we're in somewhere between 85 to 90% of all independent agencies, which is a huge number. So it's very broad. I think, though, there's a major difference in how Appulate's used based on the kind of agent that's using it, right? So, the largest agencies out there, the names everyone knows, they have maybe a bit of a different motivation to use Appulate. It's kind of more about efficiency gain, which is a good reason to use it. But I'm really excited about the value proposition we bring to the smaller agencies, because a lot of the smaller agencies, they don't have the amount of business to warrant as many direct appointments with carriers. And one of the things that Appulate has become is it kind of a digital aggregator or digital distributor. And we are enabling a lot of independent agents, small mom and pop kind of agencies that may have traditionally written home or auto insurance. We're giving them access to some really great commercial products that are allowing them to increase their written premium. And that's something we're really proud of. It almost sometimes feels like we're really helping the little guy out. And I think they need that more than ever before, because the industry's consolidating, and there are some really big Goliaths out there.
Yeah, no, to your point, I was using InsurTech at first because they're the first ones to give me a shot when I try to do my It was nice. I still use them to this day, especially when you're busy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, then I came across Smart Choice, and I know they're a fan of like the little guy as well. And it's just cool. Like, it's an interesting industry where, we all may be kind of tiny, kind of rowing our own little canoes, but it's still a force, and it still is something to be considered next to, like you said, the 10,000-pound gorillas out there,
Yeah.
And then on the consumer side, it sounds like you have some tools you're really proud of. Is it like, policy wallets, portals? Is it, kind of places where the agent can have a better connection with the consumer? Or?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really helps the agent and consumer relationship, right? Because the agent needs to collect a lot of data from the consumer in order to submit and quote a risk. And so we've really figured out an easy way to allow the agent to do that. You know, the insured feels good because they don't have the inconvenience of having to handwrite forms, and you know, and so a lot of that's been automated to a way that really expedites the quoting and submission process, and I think creates a stickier relationship between the agent and insured.
That's cool. How'd you find yourself in the insurance niche? I saw Marina Software, or was it Marina Software kind of ahead of time? Was that the parent company, and then kind of Appulate hit a stride and sort of double down? Or?
Well, sort of. I mean, the truth is that the story of Appulate really is a genesis from the basketball court.
Oh, wow.
Believe it or not,
Yeah.
I used to play a lot of pickup basketball on the weekends. I worked really hard during the weekdays, and then Saturday mornings would go out and play some hoops. And you can probably tell I'm a small guy, 5'9", so I'm not going to impress anybody too much out there, but. I had a buddy of mine who was big, and he and I, when we play together, we were pretty dominant for a while.
Awesome.
But he stopped showing up, and I kind of called him out on it. Hey, you know, are you going to be able to make it today? Nah, you know, I'm too busy. I got too much work to do. And I thought that's kind of a weird excuse. So one day, Brett, I show up at his house on a Saturday morning, kind of, you know, just I was so eager to win that I wanted to make sure he was playing, and he gave me that same excuse at his front door, and probably thought I was a little bit, you know, you know, over crossing the line to show up at his house. But he invites me in and shows me, you know, what he does, and I didn't even know he was an insurance agent.
That's fine.
On his coffee table, and this is back in 2005. He had just it covered in applications. And I guess what he had been doing is during the weekdays, he was out prospecting and meeting with clients. And then on the weekends, he'd have to fill out all these forms.
Oh, yeah.
Turns out I have a forms automation background. So I knew a thing or two about kind of taking forms and, you know, driving efficiencies to them. And I started looking at these forms, you know, a CNA application, a Hartford application, a traveler's application. And what I came to realize was that even though to the naked eye, these applications all look differently, they actually ask the same questions, sort of differently, right? Yeah. And so, you know, a good example, I'll use it. It'll ask like, you know, what's the maximum weight lifted? And then another application will say, well, do any of your employees lift more than 20 pounds? Mm-hmm. Well, if you could take that and put it in an interface, you could narrow down those two questions to one, right? If you said, what's the maximum weight lifted? And the answer was 15 pounds, then you could deduce that the answer to that question of, you know, do any of your employees lift more than 20 pounds would be no. Yeah. So that was an interesting opportunity to kind of use my skill set. But I was not financially motivated. I was motivated to get back out on the basketball court with my buddy and start winning again. So that's really the genesis of Appulate. Of course, it took my joining forces with my partner, Dimitri Nicolou, awesome. Truly the smartest guy I know. Yeah. And his brilliance is really what architected the initial, you know, Appulate product, 2005.
Cool. March. Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. I have a plate in my hand. I played a lot of pickup ball. I broke my hand at like 30. I used to play a couple nights a week. There's a point when I was in like 3 men's leagues. But it was kind of like you know, it's been a fun run. It's been a good chapter, and I kind of like wound it down. And I feel like that same like competitive urge is kind of funneled over to business. You know, like my phone's buzzing because I'm playing golf later today with my dad, my best friend, and my little brother. You know, so there's a bunch of trash talk happening over here to my left right now.
Yeah, you're not going to break your hand in golf. At least you shouldn't, unless you get upset and like punch somebody, right?
Exactly. I'll run and I'll lift now, but that's like a whole other aside. But yeah, I love hoops. I always joke that hoops is like the best training for salespeople because you're one-on-one, but then you also have to work with a team. And it's a little more gritty and confrontation. I think people kind of give it credit for, especially I'll say kind of back in the day, not to old man it too much, but I feel like it was a little grittier during the 90s, you know. playing pickup ball, you just still have to like get the bucket, even if, there's a foul, whatever else, you still have to get the ball in the hoop.
Well, the game has changed a lot, and a lot of it's been driven now by these sharpshooters in the NBA that dominate, like Steph Curry, who can pull up from 30 feet and reliably hit the shot. So it is not as maybe as much of a banging game as it once was, but man, it's fun. It's a great. I mean, Dr. James Naismith invented something that you only wish that someone like that was still alive to see what that game turned into.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I think we can run a parallel between kind of the data transferring and how basketball used to be to a degree. I even got back into golf, played for the first time last year in 7 years. It's so interesting how technical and how the swing, the guy has it reduced to 4 motions, how all the jump shooters look the same, how we were finding these efficiencies where, it used to be grinding, it used to just be calls and repetitiveness and toughness. And now we've sort of replaced that with, intelligence, data, automation. I still think, the phone is very useful. I still think you got to reach out, marketing helps open the door. You can't replace the toughness, but the efficiency you're offering, compared to what your buddy could do 15 years ago. And I hate to admit it, but I'm still working like your buddy a lot of the time. I've got some renewals coming up where I'm going to print more paper than I should as an InsurTech guy. So the process is still kind of winding down, but yeah, it's cool. I think there's a lot of knowledge, being shared, and, people are helping each other out across the board. It's cool.
One thing that I'm very sobered about, and I admit I'm a geek, and I've made my life around building tech companies, but even I see that the relationship between an agent and their insured can't be automated. You can't automate that, and I think there have been attempts to do that. There's plenty of insurtechs out there that are trying to disrupt the independent agent. And I don't know of too many that could really show any, true level of success. I think at the end of the day, the agent really matters, and that relationship, that trusted relationship, matters a lot. I know for me, I would never buy insurance if I didn't have an agent involved, because I trust my agent to know what coverages that I need for my personal life as well as for our professional lives. And so, you can automate some of the data entry, and you can automate some of the data collection, and you can do, things to help make that more efficient. But I'm with you 100%, Brett. I think that the phone and even showing up, hopefully we'll be able to do more of that with COVID suppressing. But I think that matters, as much today as it did 20, 30, 50 years ago.
Well, I think the model is like Palantir, where they take the data 90% of the way there, but it ends up being in front of a human to make the final decision. And I actually think InsurTech done right is going to make it more of a person-to-person industry. We're going to be less on paper, less behind, and you're going to have more time to build those, authentic relationships. We are on the client side. We want to be totally honest with what we're submitting and be straightforward and build a long-term good book of business with the carrier. But we are also on the client side. So I think kind of having that advocacy, being there for them.
Definitely.
You're not replacing that either, and then the levels I had heard before from my buddy's broker lift out of Canada were $400 for personal and $1,200 for commercial.
Oh, wow.
If you're south of that, you may be able to automate it. If it's a real kind of dink and dump renters, even though there's some cool things you can do with a renters that
sure
ability. Or, if your business insurance is less than $100 a month, you might be comfortable buying it kind of pre-bundled.
Yeah.
But you go north of that, you start having employees, even Gusto, who's a very tech-driven, smart platform, you get north of 5 employees or have any complicated question. My buddy Blake's phone's ringing across the hall for his benefits agency.
Sure. And this is not unique to insurance. I mean, if you know the real estate, residential real estate, if you look back 10 years ago, there were a number of players that were trying to kind of disrupt the realtor. And they had a lot of buzz, and the value proposition seemed right, to the consumer. Hey, avoid having to give away, points of commission to a realtor, just do it yourself. But like insurance, real estate is a complicated transaction. And if you do it wrong, it could be disastrous. And there's a reason why, a good realtor is so important in the purchasing or selling of a piece of real estate. So, I do believe that experts matter, and I think in insurance, the expert being the agent, I think that will continue going forward.
Well, I hate to say it, but it's also granular.
Yeah.
A company like Zillow trying to buy 10,000 homes,
Right.
going to have a hard time. You're gonna have to hold the contractors accountable.
Oh yeah.
Micro tactics, and I try to write good businesses. This is not myself personally, but some of these automated platforms, people can send stuff through that's not quite as cherry, or maybe they send it through a different direction.
Exactly.
But it should be, because they know there aren't really eyes on it.
Yeah.
So I don't think the humans are going away from our business anytime soon.
No. As you said, I mean, there are certain policies. If you're, young and single and you're trying to get auto insurance, you don't have any dependents, you don't have any assets. I get it. You can buy it online, or, home warranty or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, if it only takes one claim and you realize that, oh, you bought it online and you didn't get the coverage that you needed, and now you're really in trouble. So I think especially for commercial, it's going to be humans involved for the foreseeable future, at least while we're alive.
Not only like advocates, but like personal liability on the auto policy, and kind of making sure people know, like, you're on the hook if the insurance doesn't cover it.
Oh yeah.
We're almost like, I don't want to say little spokespeople, but we're like, no, this risk is real. This is out there. This could be bad. It's such a funny paranoid industry. Before we hit record, I was mentioning my wife's in PT grad school. Between the two of us, we're just becoming more and more paranoid. Between all my insurance stuff and her seeing people with physical challenges, we're just like, all right, wrap myself in bubble wrap, don't go on the freeway.
The world is a risky place, isn't it? But that's why, I mean, insurance is so valuable. Our ability to transfer risk it has created the society we live in today. And I don't, I'm not saying this just to brown nose. I think insurance, the industry doesn't get the kudos that it deserves, because I mean, most of things in life that we take for granted, we could not do if we didn't have, some way to transfer our risk. And so, insurance is extraordinarily important.
Oh yeah, it kind of built the modern world in a way, between all the shipping and whatever else.
Absolutely.
Life insurance keeping families intact. I joke that I'm generally decently liked as a person. So I was like, what can I do with that? Oh, I should use it, get into insurance. Let's spend that positive social equity. And plus, I think as a salesman, it's like the ultimate, you find need, you find fit, people don't want to buy it. It's like a very fun, abstract challenge. You're not selling a vacuum cleaner.
Sure.
Assess these different things, find things that fit, make people aware. I enjoy it. I enjoy that every day is a little different.
Brett, you are not the Ned Ryerson character in Groundhog Day.
I always mention that. I always think when I mention getting into life insurance more, I always think of that guy. And life insurance too is another one where, as I got involved with Fineo, you just start becoming paranoid, and you feel like your friends, they have kids, buy houses, whatever else. Like, you feel like you're doing them a disservice if you don't bring it up.
So true.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine.
Extremely important that people protect their families through the use of life insurance. Appulate does not play on the life health annuity side. We're solely PNC based, but I mean, I tell everybody that I meet that's in the younger generation, all my employees and everything else, I say, protect yourself with life insurance. If you have a family, it's almost like a moral obligation.
I agree. And I'll bug you after to talk like the Fineo stuff a little more. But what's interesting, my rule of thumb for working with startups is, does this work somewhere else but not insurance yet?
Yeah.
Do I trust and like the founders? Do I think the team is capable? And where I've kind of cheated and where Fineos get fun to be involved in is, it totally reminded me of a cover wallet. I was like, oh, this is cover wallet, but for life insurance. It's like, okay, how can I help? But it's so funny. PNC picks on itself, and then life insurance is 5 years behind PNC, I swear. So not to say easy pickings, but yeah, it's been fun and super interesting. And I love our industry, and if you're well-intentioned, doors open for you.
Definitely.
Pretty cool. I always say I've met some of the smartest, nicest, motivated people around our space. It's definitely the island of misfit toys. Nobody means to get into it, and then they end up being a bunch of good folks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I've never once come in contact with someone that said, "Oh yeah, it was my dream as a teenager to become an insurance agent or something." I think you're right. Everybody just kind of falls into it, either through nepotism or through just circumstance. But yeah, it's a great space, and I think the industry is really healthy right now. I mean, it just feels that way. I don't think. I mean, in my now nearly 20 years, I don't think it always has been healthy. So it's good to see it that way right now. And I'm like we talked about earlier, I mean, I think for InsurTech, we're just kind of scratching the surface, a lot of opportunity there. There's still a tremendous amount of, of venture capital and private equity dollars going into the industry that's kind of driving growth and driving innovation. So it's a great time. I think the next 10 years are going to be really exciting in the space.
Yeah, to your point, I'm coming up on 8 years of being licensed, and not to pick on anybody, the world was different, wasn't as connected, but you feel like maybe a decade or two ago, it was sort of like a circle of people in the industry kind of looking over the wall, like, no, this is pretty good, we'll hang out down here.
Yeah.
Like these tech guys came along, they kind of started stirring it up, and then, COVID pushed everybody to be a little more digitally distributed as well. I think, I want to say it's a Thimble or, it's some, Farmers has an offshoot where they started with like renters insurance in the South to kind of like play with a new stack. I think we'll see situations like that where you might not be changing the whole boat from within, but you're going to start another bet over here and figure out how this works, and eventually hopefully this eats the host to a degree, so it'll be really interesting to watch that play out over the next decade or so. I have a talented broker buddy who wanted to get into working with InsurTechs in like 3 years. I was like, you got to do it right now. The change is coming. Like, pretty soon what we're working on is just going to be ubiquitous, and a lot of old stuff will be around too. But I was like, this is a fun wave to be a part of right now.
It's I mean, it just seems like it's a space that is ripe for, I mean, the window is wide open right now, and it at times it almost feels, I mean, I'm a guy that started my career still during the .com boom of the late 90s. And it feels a little bit like that, where, hey, if you've got a good idea and the wherewithal to get it off the ground, you can go out and, raise some money and get it going. Obviously that probably won't last forever, because eventually the things kind of settle down. But I think right now it's just a great place for entrepreneurs. It's a great place for energetic people that are eager to bring innovation to an industry that, as you said, Brett, really needs it.
It is a little frothy right now, like a little bubbly, I think, but even after the .com bubble, all that infrastructure, all that change, all that opportunity opened up a bunch of doors. Not every bet's going to be a good bet. That's how it goes with VC, seed funding, whatever. But I do think, I'm not saying anything novel, changes here to stay. And even if things don't shake out perfectly, it's not going to be the same as it was, kind of headed.
Yeah, and we've seen some success all the way to the public markets with some of these insurtechs, and so there's proof that these investments do have an ROI for the organizations that back these companies. So it's a fun and interesting space, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're hitting a little choppy water, but that's round one, and that's growing pains, and that's gonna be lessons for the next crop, that's coming behind them. But Jeff, I really appreciate your time. Don't want to hold you too long today. Sounds like you got a lot of agents and people to take care of out there. How should people chase you down? What should they be looking at Appulate for if they're trying to make their own office that much sharper?
Yeah, well, we have an unbelievable YouTube page. So if you search Appulate on YouTube, you can see a bunch of videos, see what we're all about. You can obviously go to our website, appulate.com. I have a phenomenal team. We have almost 120 employees now at Appulate, so we have plenty of people to talk to and take care of you. So love to have those conversations. Love to help out agents, brokers, and carriers that are looking to transform the way that they're doing business and just make it easier to submit and quote risks.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Jeff. I'll have all that in kind of the notes on YouTube, and I really appreciate your time today.
Hey, Brett, thanks for having me, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. See ya. Cool.